A fan sent me a foldable phone. This is the latest and also the most expensive foldable phone. Its price increased upon release. It's known as a wealth management machine. The fan said he paid an extra $20,000 to get this phone at the time. Wow, you're a real big spender. The fan said he drank too much recently and dropped the phone, smashing it. He replaced both the inner and outer screens at an official service center, costing nearly $6,000. Wow, if you add it all up, this phone is worth $40,000. The fan said that's no big deal. The problem is that after replacing the screen, it started to reboot automatically within a few days, then it wouldn't turn on at all. The phone itself isn't important since he already bought a new one. What matters is the data inside the phone. He said, if I can fix it and retrieve the data, I can keep the phone. I hope you mean it, buddy. We removed the phone's back cover. There's a service seal on it. This shows it hasn't been repaired elsewhere. Could this be an easy job for me? We continued removing all the screws, removed the main board shield, tested it with a power supply, pressed the power button, the current spiked. Then settled at 100 milliamperes without moving. This kind of current usually indicates the CPU isn't fully functioning. Some people quietly watch videos, but they'll sneakily like, comment, share, repost, and follow. People like that are just so sweet. We removed the clamp shield over the CPU, observed it under the microscope. The most damaged area is on the back of the main CPU. We looked closely. The CPU isn't cracked. Fortunately, this phone uses a dual-layer mainboard for the signal section. We removed all the deformed shields from the mainboard, removed the upper layer of the dual-layer mainboard. The hard drive is hidden underneath. If it's damaged or cracked, the data can't be recovered. But it seems okay. The hard drive is intact. We looked closer under the microscope. The CPU may not be working due to loose solder points caused by the drop, or it could be a power issue with the CPU. We'll start with the simple checks first. The power ICs nearby buck inductors supply power to the CPU. If they have loose solder due to impact, the phone won't turn on. We used tweezers to tap them with some force. Sure enough, a few were loose from impact. Could it really be an easy fix? We cleaned the solder pads for the loose inductors, replaced them with new ones. Okay, let's test it with the phone assembled. Could it really be a quick $40,000 profit? We reinstalled the mainboard in the casing, tested it again with a power supply, pressed the power button. The issue persists. Looks like making money from this wealthy fan isn't so simple. We removed the mainboard again for closer inspection. The most damaged area is on the back of the CPU. Could the problem really be under the CPU? Let's go for it. We removed the CPU to check. Used a heat gun set to 350 degrees Celsius to remove the upper-level memory, then removed the main CPU. Sure enough, several solder points were missing under the CPU. Dude, how hard did you drop this phone? Were you throwing this expensive phone like a grenade? We cleaned up the mainboard solder pads. Then we handled the missing solder pads. You can see that one spot where the pad is missing left a hole. Luckily, there are no traces underneath it. The three important solder points have traces underneath. We uncovered the hidden traces, added some solder, connected a copper wire to the missing solder points, used green UV glue to secure it, coiled the copper wire to create a new artificial pad, repeated the same method for the other two, applied green glue to secure them, cured them with UV light. The mainboard's pads are ready. We cleaned the black adhesive off the CPU and memory. When preparing the CPU with solder, we discovered another missing solder point on the CPU chip. Each of these tiny points is barely larger than a needle's eye. We connected a copper wire to the adjacent lead, coiled it to create an artificial pad, secured it with green glue. Okay, the CPU is ready. We applied solder to the CPU, applied solder to the memory, reinstalled the CPU and memory on the mainboard. Okay, the mainboard is ready. Installed it in the casing. Connected to a power supply for testing, pressed the power button. The current shows it's booting up. Connected the battery for testing, pressed the power button. The logo finally appeared. Successfully entered the system, entered the password. Your data is safe, buddy. Removed the mainboard. Soldered the signal board of the dual-layer board. Installed the camera. Reinstalled the mainboard in the casing. Tested all functions. Okay, everything works. After much effort, the phone the fan offered me is finally repaired. We removed the mainboard again, reinstalled all the shields, secured the mainboard in the casing, screwed everything back together. Finally, one last thing to tell the fan: I definitely can't accept your phone. Let's settle in cash instead.